அரவிந்தர் ஆசிரம விவகாரம் புதுச்சேரியில் புயலை கிளப்பிக் கொண்டிருக்கும் நிலையில் உண்மையில் அங்கு நடந்தது என்ன என்பது குறித்த புதிய தகவல்களை வழங்க காத்திருக்கிறார் நமது புதுவை செய்தியாளர் எழில். அரவிந்தர் ஆசிரம விவகாரம் காரணமா இன்னைக்கு புதுவையில முழு அடைப்பு நடந்துட்டு இருக்கிற இந்த சூழ்நிலையில அரவிந்தர் ஆசிரம நிர்வாகிகள் இதை பத்தி என்ன சொல்றாங்க?
புதுச்சேரியே கடந்த 2 நாட்களாக உலுக்கியுள்ள இந்த 5 சகோதரிகளின் பிரச்சனையில் முதல் முறையாக நேரடியாக நம்மிடையே ஆசிரமத்தின் சார்பாக பேசுவதற்காக ஆசிரமத்தின் செக்ரட்டரி மாத்ரி பிரசாத் நம்மிடையே உள்ளார். இந்த சர்ச்சை தொடர்பாக அவரிடையுமே நேரடியாக கேட்போம். சார், ஆக்சுவலி டெல் மீ, வாட் இஸ் த ப்ராப்ளம் பிட்வீன் ஆஷ்ரம் அண்ட் பிரசாத் சிஸ்டர்ஸ்?
Before I tell you that, let me first say that we are so sad that these persons took a step which was neither good nor fair nor necessary. Ashram has always treated them with great care and compassion. Now, going back to what has happened. Life in Ashram is a very simple life. People join here voluntarily. And there are very few rules regulating the life of the Ashramite. But there are very simple things. After all, it's a spiritual organization which are not permitted in the Ashram. Sex, politics, alcohol, drugs, these are not permitted. In the year 2001, we came to know that the last of the sisters had indulged in sex which is against the rules of the ashram. We are very compassionate towards her and said that she can just quietly withdraw from ashram as we do not want her name to get spoiled. Instead of doing that, she filed a complaint, she filed a case against it, although first she tried to go away, later on she changed her mind and she tried to do it. Finally, the High Court of Madras said that we ourselves would have an inquiry whether the allegations against her are true or not true. I would like to read out to you the last portion of the report that was given by the inquiry officer to the High Court, where he says, I also hold that the allegations against Hemalatha Prasad is quite serious, and if such misconduct is ignored and no action is taken, that would be a bad precedent and it would jeopardize the noble principles on which ashram is established and would definitely encourage indiscipline. In order to divert the attention from the misconduct of Hemalatha and the necessary disciplinary action that followed, all her other sisters created a story that they were being sexually harassed. In fact, all their allegations have been looked into not once, not twice, not thrice, but any number of times and were found to be false. For example, they complained to the National Commission for Women. National Commission for Women, through the State Commission for Women, inquired about it. And they came to the conclusion that not only the allegations are false, but there is a malicious planning behind the allegation. They went to the Human Rights Commission, suppressing the fact that they have already gone to the National Commission for Women. Independently, the Human Rights Commission came to the conclusion that they are not only their allegations are false, but they have suppressed the fact that these allegations have already been looked into and have already been dismissed. Thereafter, the Human Rights Commission noted that even the Superintendent of Police North proposed to them that I can intervene, use my good offices with the ashram so that you are given some separate accommodation. But they refused to do it because now we know why they refused to do it. Because in order to sustain their allegation, they have to tell these lies, and therefore they could not have escaped it. They filed a complaint against the police against several persons in the ashram. The judicial magistrate found the complaint to be false. They filed a complaint of defamation. The judicial magistrate dismissed that also after the full trial, while noting down that Hemalatha Prasad is not telling the truth. Neither are her witnesses telling the truth, because all her witnesses were people whom she had gathered around who were having a hostility towards the ashram. Thereafter, ashram had its own inquiry. In that inquiry, because all the other persons in the ashram housing complex, which were about 180 persons living there, were constantly complaining that they are making their life miserable by giving constantly false complaints about each and every one, and they were feeling unsafe. When these 5 sisters also complained that they are facing harassment and others also complained, we took the services of a retired deputy secretary to the government of Pondicherry, who was later on part of Lok Adalat, so that he can be a completely neutral person, completely free from any bias, and that he should recommend as to whether those allegations are true or not true. Even though the 5 sisters had laid allegations against others, during the inquiry they refused to participate. However, after taking all the evidence, examining all the documents, examining all the witnesses, the retired deputy secretary to the government of Pondicherry came to the conclusion that the allegations made by these 5 sisters were false. The allegations made by others that they were making their life miserable, that they were feeling insecure because these 5 were there, were true. The 5 sisters challenged ashram, naturally took a disciplinary action against it. We cannot have in our midst 5 persons who insist that all the other 1,200 persons are harassing her. So she challenged it. Finally, the High Court asked them, if you are feeling unsafe, why do you insist on staying there? I would like to show you just one affidavit that they have filed, wherein they say that although we are unsafe here, we are still safer than any other place in the world. Finally, the High Court of Madras said, you cannot stay inside a place, say that you are unsafe, and insist that you will stay there only. It fixed an outside place, it fixed an amount that has to be given to them, and ashram wrote number of times, please tell us your account so that we can deposit the money. They refused to go out because the purpose for making those allegations was different. The purpose was actually to cover up the lie and to cover up the disciplinary action that was being taken against the last of the sisters.
Sir, the amount that the High Court had fixed was nearly 30,000 rupees a month. And even in spite of this very substantial amount, they still refused to accept that and insisted on staying in the ashram premises and enjoying all the facilities, even though they were expelled.
Finally, it went to the Supreme Court. And in the Supreme Court decided that they must forthwith leave the ashram. On the pleading of their lawyer that some time be given to them, they allowed up to 31st of July. And Supreme Court asked them to give an undertaking that until then they shall maintain discipline in the ashram, and also that they shall give an undertaking that by 31st July they shall leave. They gave an undertaking to the Supreme Court saying that we shall leave within the stipulated time. After that, this is the undertaking that they have given, each and every one of them. After that, when they refused to do so, ashram had no other option but to file a contempt proceeding against them, because some order of some court has to be applied. Ashram has never refused to pay them what the High Court had demanded, what the High Court had insisted that we pay. In fact, we have repeatedly given to them letters that they give the bank account. We even filed an application in the suit that they allow us lodgement in the suit, in the court, so that we give the money to the court and they can take from the court. They opposed our application and refused to have an order of the court where the court allows us to deposit money in the court so that they can have it. But what is even more sad, and that is where one feels very hurt, is instead of obeying the rule of law, they started casting aspersion upon the judges. Not 1, not 2, not 3, but any judge who had seen through their lies. This is what is very sad.
So here is judges of the local courts, of the High Court, and even of the Supreme Court. And not just one judges, but multiple judges in each of these courts. These allegations were cast by the sisters.
Again and again, writing to them, again and again saying that this judge is corrupt, this judge is corrupt. In fact, they accused one of the judges that he had visited the ashram. In the open court, the judge said, yes, I have visited the ashram. Not once, but 4 times. I tell you why I have visited. Because it's a place of such peace and sanctity that I feel a sense of fulfillment. And therefore, I visit in order to gain my own tranquility. It's a public place. Anybody can come, and there's no reason why I cannot come. After all, I also need a sense of tranquility. In the courtroom, all the sisters who had come, they shouted the most abusive slogans, calling the Supreme Court a national monument to injustice. Thereafter, Supreme Court was left with no other option but to enforce the law, and therefore said, either you go out by this date or the police shall evict you.
So the judge who had visited recused himself, and the matter was posted before another bench. And that bench passed the order dated 9th December, directing them to leave in 7 days or else face police eviction.
Now, it's very unfortunate that after that, they wrote to us, here is the letter which we have sent to the Superintendent of Police, saying, please pass a resolution that order of the Supreme Court should not be followed. Here is the letter.
Signed by all the 5 sisters.
That order of the Supreme Court should not be followed. They asked us to give an undertaking that we do not want the order of the Supreme Court to be followed. Now, this is not possible for any organization to say that Supreme Court shall not be obeyed. Then there is no rule of law. But in spite of that, all that is another matter. The fact remains that we still have that compassion for them, and we are so sad that some people are so misguiding them that they can take such unnecessary, unfair, and unjustified steps, and that they continue to issue such threats.
இந்த ஆசிரம பிரச்சனையில் முதல் முறையாக நேரடியாக நம்முடைய ஆசிரமத்தை சேர்ந்த செயலாளர் நம்மிடையே பேட்டி அளித்துள்ளார். அவர் கூறும்பொழுது அந்த 5 சகோதரிகளும் ஆசிரம சட்ட திட்டங்களை மீறியதாகவும் அதன் மீது தான் நாங்கள் நடவடிக்கை எடுத்தோம். ஆசிரமத்தில் உலகின் பல்வேறு பகுதிகளிலிருந்தும் இங்கு சேவை செய்கின்றனர். குறிப்பாக நாங்கள் ஏன் இந்த 5 சகோதரிகளை மட்டும் நாங்கள் குறிப்பிட்டு இவர்கள் மீது பழி சுமத்த வேண்டும் என தெரிவித்துள்ளனர்.